Welcome, everyone. In Europe, about 1 in 4 people has a form of disability that influences the way they experience and are able to navigate digital spaces. Think of people who are blind, for example, colorblind, deaf, or people who have a motor impairment. And as we age, all of us are likely going to experience difficulties in accessing and using digital spaces and new technologies. So we all benefit from accessible digital services now or in the future. My name is Renate Roke. I'm an accessibility consultant and I work for Swink in the Netherlands, and we specialize in accessibility audits and consulting, and we're a social enterprise.
And I'm Gerwin Vaatstra, married to Renate, and that's how this talk came to be. And I work for the D-Testers in the Netherlands, which is focused on technical automation.
So what we'll address in this talk is first a little bit of a background in what digital accessibility is and who it's for, who it benefits. And then something you're all probably pretty curious about, the European Accessibility Act. And then Gerwin will take the stage to show you something on how you can apply it. I would like to say today, but probably Monday, if you go back to work. So it's something you can do right away to improve the accessibility of your products. So could you please raise your hand if you already think of digital accessibility in your work right now? That's amazing. That's amazing. So now I'm going to be a little bit mean. Sorry in advance. This is a colorblind test. Does anybody off the bat have any issues in identifying? Yeah. Yes, I see mainly men raising their hands. I'm going to help you a little bit. The number in the top left corner is 74. Then we have 6, 2, and 42. Did anybody get all of those right? Okay. 3? 2? Just 1? Okay, yeah, that checks out. Worldwide, about 8% of men are affected by a type of color blindness, and that's about 4% of women. But accessibility affects a lot more people. So what does that mean when we're talking about our digital spaces? It means providing keyboard accessibility for people who use screen readers or have motor disabilities. Assistive technologies get their information from the DOM, so they compile an accessibility tree that they get their information from, which is really important for people who use screen readers. So what does that keyboard accessibility look like? And what do you need to test for? That means operability, so if you can reach everything. It means the focus order, having a visible focus outline, and providing skip links to skip repeating blocks of content, for example. When we're talking about accessibility, we also need to talk about accessibility for single pointers and touch, so the mouse, for people who have motor disabilities. And that means testing for alternatives for drag and drop, path-based gestures, and swiping motions, for example. And it also means providing alternative text and information about structure, function, and operability. Again, for people who use screen readers, but also for people who have cognitive disabilities, for example. So what does that mean? It means checking for accessible names, states, and roles for interactive elements. It means using semantic HTML, using native HTML wherever possible in development. It means providing descriptive and well-implemented form labels for your form fields. It means providing text alternatives for non-text content wherever that is applicable, or hiding decorative content if it's only noise for people who use a screen reader. It means using the correct language settings. So, like I said, the information that you provide, that's the information that assistive technology uses. So if your page is in English and you put content in a different language on that page, the screen reader will read that in the English language that you set for the entire page, so possibly the content can be heard correctly. And it also means providing a meaningful reading order. It also means making it perceivable for people with low vision and color blindness. So that's the contrast ratios and, of text and non-text. It's not only using color to identify form errors, for example, or parts of a graph. It means being able to resize and customize text. For example, for people with dyslexia, they can alter the spacing between letters and words and sentences to make it more readable. So does your content stay readable when people do that, or does it break, and does it mean loss of information or functionality? And it means being able to zoom the entire page. And it also means providing audio description for people who are blind and for people who have low vision in the form of transcripts or audio descriptions. And you also need to make sure that if you provide any instructions or informations in non-text, for example, in animations, that you also make sure that information is available in text. And lastly, it also means using text-based alternatives for audio. So if you have alerts in your app or on your web, for example, in a forum to remind you that your session is running out, or if it's for a test, you also need to make sure that that information is not only audible, but also visual on screen. You okay? So my vision is that if every member of the team, so the testers, the developers, the designers, if everyone has knowledge about accessibility and does their part, accessibility will become an integrated part of the development process and will eventually require minimal extra time and effort for everyone. So, the European Accessibility Act. What are we even talking about? The European Accessibility Act, the scope of that is consumer goods and services, and they will have new accessibility requirements. The standard that we're using in Europe is the EN 301549. That is also the same standard that we use for the European Web Accessibility Directive that is already in place for the public sector, and that's also the standard that will be used to regulate or for the European Accessibility Act. That standard is referring to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Show hands if you already are familiar with. Great. Currently, it still refers to version 2.1, but probably more towards the end of the year, it will be updated to the new version 2.2. And the standard that we use now with these accessibility requirements is AA standard. That is also what will be required of businesses that provide these consumer goods and services. So it's European legislation that will be national law for all 27 member states, but also businesses that sell goods and services to consumers in the UA, they also will need to comply to the European Accessibility Act. Here's where it's kind of tricky to provide you with any extra information about your own situation. The specific and additional requirements that will be set for each country, they are going to differ, and most countries are in the process of making these laws still as of today. And that is kind of late because the law will take effect on June 25, 2025, so in about 3 months. So it's about goods and services. So firstly, the physical goods, the things you can touch, the things you can buy. We're talking about computers and operating systems. We're talking about ATM ticket and check-in machines and payment terminals. We're talking about smartphones, digital television equipment, telephone services and their related equipment, and then there's the digital goods and services. And that's probably what you're almost curious about. So not sure if anyone here has anything to do with this, but I think it's just great that the EU emergency number 112 will also have to comply to the Accessibility Act. So audiovisual media services, passenger travel services, online banking, that's a huge one, e-books, and e-commerce. And the e-commerce will have probably the largest impact in what we will notice, so banking and e-commerce, in what we will notice as consumers ourselves, but also probably you guys here that will need to help your team make sure you guys comply. So, to get ahead of any questions you might probably have, I already compiled a few. So, are there exemptions? Yes. So, if we're talking about the European Accessibility Act and all the businesses that need to comply, micro-enterprises are exempt. So, what are micro-enterprises? They are businesses with fewer than 2 employees or less than 2 annual turnover. But only if you provide services. So the exemption is not for the goods part of the European Accessibility Act. And completely out of scope for this law is strict business-to-business and employee-facing software. So if you're in any of that, then you can now sit back and relax and let all the other people sweat it for the next of the presentation. Is there a grace period? Because 3 months is pretty much around the corner. So yes, that's the good news, yes. Products and services that existed before the June 25 deadline technically have a grace period until June 2030, but that is only if you're not going to alter it after June 25. So what we're guessing now is that any continual development or any fixes or any new developments, as soon as any of that happens after the June 25 deadline, I'm sorry, your grace period then is over. Does my business have to comply? I'm sorry, I don't know. It's always best to ask your legal team because there's a lot of things we're not entirely sure about until all the legislation is actually done, and it also depends on what country you live in. So I would always suggest to ask your legal team. So then, if we do have to comply because we don't have the grace period because we're going to continue development, can we at least claim a disproportionate burden? I don't know. If you want to claim a disproportionate burden, you have to assess and provide information about the ratio of the cost of compliance to your overall cost, the estimated cost and benefits in relation to the estimated benefits to persons with disability that are in contact or buy services from your company, and the ratio of the net cost of compliance to the net turnover. So that already sounds like a lot of work. And even then, if you have compiled all that information and you can claim a little bit of a disproportionate burden, even then you will have to comply to the extent that it is proportionate and reasonable for your company to comply. And then my personal favorite, can't we use an overlay? Please don't. Overlays only mask accessibility issues, they don't fix them, and they can hinder assistive technologies. So they can, for example, alter the rules or the names of the elements that then are no longer functional to people using, for example, a screen reader. And most importantly, a overlay will never make your product comply to the accessibility requirements because so much of it is context dependent and needs human assessment. Right, so now you're probably wondering, now what? And that is Gerwin's cue.
Yeah, indeed. In contrast to what Renate said, maybe if you're working for a company B2B or for employees, maybe you don't need to comply, but it would be morally correct to do so as well. For example, I worked for a company that made software for psychologists. They asked, like, can you have a blind psychologist? We don't have blind psychologists. Well, then you ask why, because they cannot use the software. So if you have a client that challenge you, like, it's not necessary, we don't have people with disabilities, we don't have people with challenges, it's only for employees, then ask yourself, well, will that employee be cited miraculously if he uses your software because it's only for employees? Just to think about that. Just some show hands, because I liked that idea. Who thinks his company is his or her company is ready for the Accessibility Act in June in testing strategy, software development life cycle? I see 1 or 2 hands. Great, great. Well, work to do. Only a few months. Yeah, because we're on a testing conference, but we're also on a software delivery world, and testing is late. So you first start with the design, because that's the cheapest, the best, and the latest moment to start thinking about it. You cannot fix issues with testing. You fix issues in your design. You fix issues in your development, and if you didn't fix them, you will find them in testing. So start thinking about accessibility in your design. Start thinking about explicit requirements, not like, well, this will probably fix it, or this will just make it good contrast. Specify what a good contrast is, specify what colors, the hex values, be explicit. So you can think about tab order. is there a logical tab order, and what happens to the tab order if a modal pops up? What if an alert happens, like if an error happens? Think about those stuff. The headings, be explicit in what the headings should be, what the level of the headings should be, and headings should be headings. I will come back to that later. The navigation structure, is it logical? Both, because if you're not seeing the website or the app visually, is it also a logical structure if you take away the CSS? Descriptive information, you can use AI for that, but be careful. You can describe images, but describe the purpose of the image. Not only what is on the image, but also the purpose of the image. I will come back to that later as well, I think. And spatial context. Don't use language like next to, or this on top of this, or this will submit the above form, or on the bottom of the page, or left or right from that content. That is spatial context. Not everybody has that spatial context if they have, for example, visual impairment. Like I said, don't be only factual. So if you have an image of a beach with a palm tree, and it should be describing like a vacation mood, don't describe it as a beach with a palm tree. People with disabilities also like to know why is that image there. It's not factual, but why is that image there? What should it convey? You can use various toolkits, Figma and Sketch. They have there are various toolkits. Many toolkits are available where you can have hints for to take it into account for design. And don't forget the CMS. In the CMS, you can place all the elements everywhere. So also take in account that when you have a full website, that it will be accessible. And also the configuration options, that they are accessible. So maybe you can only allow certain color combinations. HTML and framework knowledge is actually key. Use HTML. HTML from itself is accessible. If you put everything in a div, that is not accessible. I found this image when I was searching for it, and I think it was a discussion on the BD protocol, which, if you read the context, might make sense. But the title itself was very funny to me, that the div element has no special meaning at all. It's inaccurate. In many projects that I worked for, the div element has magical powers. You can make everything from a div. But you should not. A div is a div, and a button is a button, a header is a header. And also think about if you're working with a framework, for example, you have a list component, and you have list item components. It might pull in a div somewhere in between, and then you don't have the correct semantics anymore, because list item should follow a list element. And is preferred over ARIA. Don't overuse ARIA. First rule of ARIA is don't use ARIA, but use HTML. ARIA is only like extra context, but it should not replace inaccessible code. You can use linting in your pre-commit hook. There are linters available from DQ, the accessibility linter. There are also ESLint and WebHint have rule sets. You can configure your own linting rules. And for the DQ linter, you can also configure your own components. For example, if you have a button component, you can say, well, this is a button component, my custom button component, but it should act as a button. And then it will apply the rules to that as well. There's no need to read this. I will come back to that later as well. And the slides will be shared as well. SonarQube has accessibility integration and storybook as well. So there are many options that you can use to find accessibility issues already in an earlier phase. In the testing, the first thing you can use is using accessible selectors. Maybe you are familiar with this, the DOM testing library, who uses selectors that are using accessibility. The first one, get a role, should be sufficient most of the time. So the role could be a button, could be a link, or if you can use it, use that. A label text can be interesting for forms. placeholder text, but be aware, placeholder text are not labels. Maybe you've seen forms where you have a placeholder text, and I have that issue all the time, and you click to input your text, and then you think, what was the format again? And then I don't have much issues with that, but if you have a very short attention span or a cognitive disability, you might not remember. And especially if you use assistive technology, you might not see the placeholder text all the time. So be careful with placeholder text. They are not a replacement for labels. Text is very generic. That's both a pro and a con, because if you have a lot of the same text on a website, it's probably also very difficult to know the difference if you don't see the spatial context. But you can use it. It would not be my first choice, but yeah, could be a small red flag if this is not very useful for you, that you think, well, maybe we have a lot of buttons that simply are named submit. And you think, well, how many forms are there on the page? And is it easy if I wouldn't see it? Display value, you can use that for pre-filled values, for example. Alt text for images. Yeah. Title. Titles are not always consistently shown or spoken. Yeah, be careful with that as well. And test ID, the most preferred way for most testers, and I've had a few debates in my company about it as well. Yes, it helps with reliable test automation, but it does not do anything for accessibility. Mostly, if you have to use it, it means you have an issue with accessibility. So if you cannot use these, or you have to use test ID all the time because you cannot find an accessible locator, that is a red flag. If you cannot find an accessible locator, then it's probably not accessible. And yeah, these slides will be shared, but testing library is a famous or well-known library that has these accessible locators. If you're looking at automated tests, everybody is probably familiar with AX, or if you talk to people about automation, mostly they say, well, I use AX, so I am compliant. If you use AX, you might be compliant, but you're not always compliant. And you have other tools that also mostly use AX core under the hood. Beware, specify all the tags that you want. In one assignment that I had, they were very happy that they were compliant, but they forgot that the tags were adding up to each other. So they had the highest tag, but then I added all the tags, and then hell broke loose, and then I had very many difficult discussions. So specify all the tags that you want, and not only the one that you... so if you want to test for AA, also add the A, because elsewhere you only get what is extra in AA in relation to A. IBM has equal access. In all phases they have something. So they have design, linting, knowledge base, but also tooling for testing. I will be showing that as well. And there are some tool-specific options. WebDriver I/O as the visual tab order testing that I will be showing. And yes, this will be the only reference to Playwright. Playwright has ARIA snapshots, and maybe WebDriver will get that anyway. So who knows? And also look around for existing tooling. I know of a company that used tooling they already had for their marketing department, and you could also use it to look for snippets. And they had the issue that a lot of snippets were overused, and they simply said, well, if we see that snippet, that's an alert. So you can sometimes use tooling that is not intended for that. Yeah, so component testing, tab order, you can use AX, visual regression, ARIA snapshots. Yeah, actually, that's it. But of course, be aware, tab order should be on a full page. The contrast between components should be in order, not only in your component. and you can check the parameters. So if you have color contrast, you can check, well, is this component accessible in all the situations with different parameters. All right, I will show some quick tooling now. First on tooling in Chrome, and then we'll in some code. Let's see if I can mirror the screen. It was here before when we tested this. No, it's not. Anyway, so I will just use this mouse. This is Tab Alley, and it simply says what is the tab order of the page. It creates an overlay, and you will see that there is a tab order shown, and you can easily check if that's the right tab order. Always check it also with tabbing yourself to be sure. Easy tool to use. And another tool interesting to see is the headings map. There you can normally see the headings of the page, but it seems not to work now. But normally you get an overview of the heading structure, and then you will see, does it skip a heading level? Is there a H1 element, for example, or not? So that's headings map. And yeah, of course, you have the XDev tools. Yeah, most people will not. In the free version, you can only do a scan. IBM has also, I will just go very fast. I think this one. No, this is from another one. But let's move to the code, because elsewhere that will be too late. Right. So what you can do, and it's difficult to see, right? So I have this custom linter. I already ran it, and that's what I want to show. If you want to be creative, you can make your own accessibility rules. I created this with AI, and it simply says, well, if there's a table, it should have a table header following. So you can use the regular linters, but you can also make your own. For example, if you go to this one, I have the linter from DQ. There you see that the X linters will tell you that there should be a language attribute in the HTML. And there are more things that you will find, but you also will see that in the table that is somewhere here, it does not find a lot. So don't rely too much on it, but let it help you where it can. And I already ran it there. This is with WebDriver.io. With WebDriver.io, you can also use the tab order. And let me show you that. And then you can do a visual comparison on the tab order. That's, let me see where it is. Yeah, well, I know it's chapter 10 of the workshop, so if you want to know more about it, it's in chapter 10 of the workshop. It simply uses the check screen method, and it will actually compare stuff for you. Last thing that I will show before my time is up, and I will show it here, I guess. The queue also has the X linter, so you can use X core, which does it locally, it analyzes it, but now it also has X watcher, sorry. And that's actually the web version. It analyzes it for you, and then every commit will be analyzed. You will see that in the beginning there were some issues, and it's really, here you'll see there is a lot of issues. It's relatively new, and it's easy to configure. The only thing you need to do is to have your mouse here somewhere, and then I will wrap up. No. You need an API key, and it will use the a custom WebDriver runner. That's about everything you have to do in your config, and then you need a controller. I commented it out because it was not working here, and a flush, and then it will automatically analyze it for you. So that's X Watcher, that's relatively new, and I would really look into that if you have a lot of tests and to get it in automatically. So that's about it. This repo is public, so all the things will be shared later. So I think it's question time.
Do we have questions? No questions whatsoever.
Questions.
All right. Then, well, hopefully you learned something today. You learned something new.
Sorry, you have a question?
Oh.
Hi, it was a very informative talk. Thank you so much. I would like to ask what a Percy is another tool which we can use for accessibility. So we can...
I'm not familiar with that tool, but there are
Okay.
many tools available indeed, yeah.
Okay, and X can also be integrated with the main Selenium libraries as well, right?
Yeah, Xcore can be integrated with many tools. Actually,
Many tools, right.
Yeah.
And so you showed an example with WebDriver IO here.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
sure.
So would these examples be available on GitHub?
Yeah.
If we can. Okay, thank you so much.
So hopefully you've learned something today, and you feel inspired to get to work on Monday and implement some of the things you've learned, so we can all together build a more accessible world. Thank you for your time.